So the acquisition by Intel happened about 2 years ago, and very little has actually changed. We were a strategic partner for Intel in a number of mobile operating system projects before, Moblin, and then that evolved into Migo. And Android was really a main initiative that's we've been working on for about 5 years with all the leading silicon manufacturers. Mm-hmm. So that really our focus hasn't really changed at all. We've been continuing to work very closely with all of the leading ARM manufacturers on Android, and as Intel has broadened its operating system focus to include Microsoft, but also Linux-based operating system, including Android, we've been contributing and working with them on that. Right? So it's just another silicon manufacturer for us. We actually look at it as a great opportunity to expand our customers' device portfolio with a new graphics capable stack, right? That is very intuitive, you can customize very easily, and has a very big ecosystem of applications as well as hardware providers that want to provide Android solutions. So from a traditional RTOS perspective, Android is really a great complementary solution, right? RTOS can take care of a lot of headless devices or safety and security critical devices where Wind River absolutely has a leading position. And Android is really meant to augment the capabilities of say, a medical device, whether it's an infusion pump or a patient monitor or car IBI system, with a new set of kind of network-enabled technologies. Mm-hmm. It's great for that. Not really. It's really the people that are interested in using Android. They're really interested in using Android not against an RTOS, but more because they come from a history of using embedded Windows, or maybe another proprietary graphics-rich operating system such as QNX, for example, and they're now looking at Linux alternatives, right? And Android is the most popular Linux distribution out there with the largest ecosystem, most support. So it is, if a customer goes from a proprietary operating system to a Linux operating system, Android is now definitely one of their choices. Right? Because with a standard Linux approach, you still have to select your application development environment, whether it's Qt or GTK Plus or Python, or you have many options. With Android, everything is provided. We cover all of the components of the value chain for Android. And so we have customers that are in the silicon provider space, with all the big ARM licensees, as well as our mother company. Then there are customers that build boards or SoCs, then device manufacturers, and then also operators. And one of our areas of strength is that Wind River actually is able to understand the requirements from all of the players in the value chain, and then also manage the trickle-down effect. So, for example, if an operator has a specific DRM requirement, how does the enablement of the DRM impact the performance of the SoC or of the chipset itself? If you look at the big smartphone manufacturers in the world, just from a volume perspective, Samsung, Pantech, Fujitsu, those are all customers that are using a number of our test tools for validating the quality of the software, of the Android software. As you can probably realize, whatever we announce publicly, it's only a small percentage of our total market share. And at the moment, I would really assert that certainly from a test tool perspective, from an Android test tool perspective, Wind River is absolutely the number one commercial provider of Android test tools. Well, from our perspective, we really don't have a stated preference. We have a strategic relationship with Digia, and I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we announced that relationship that we actually taking Qt now in Atos as well. Personally, I also manage the automotive product management team, and within automotive, Wind River is a leading provider of Geneva compliant solutions. Geneva being the stack that's used by a lot of tier ones and OEMs for the next generation IVI systems, and Geneva mandates Qt. Google has been pretty good about staying up to date with the kernel and keeping the kernel fresh with each Android release. And I've seen other both commercial and open source stacks fail if they didn't stay up to date with the kernel. Right? So Google making a concerted effort, I think that's a great thing. From an Android developer perspective, we were the first proliferation partner. We have a very well-established direct engineering relationship with Google for the last 5 years, longer than anybody else. We showcase that engagement in a number of specific projects. That in the past was anything from Alsa to Fast Boot to and now more recently on security enhanced Android. In the history of Linux, there was a Linux distribution called Security Enhanced Linux that came out about 10 years ago and was authored by the National Security Agency. But basically the mission was to allow public sector institutions to use Linux in their infrastructure. Now the NSA, about 6 weeks ago, announced and actually publicly released Security Enhanced Android. So Android can be used for federal employees and sensitive type of devices. And that's a totally new area for Android, right? Before the security mechanisms were really, Google had a set, and then there's a vendor community that were building security on top of what Google is providing. Now there's another major open source project that is managed by a very credible source, right, the NSA, and it's one of the areas where we're engaged. For us, the cloud has a couple of concrete areas where we work. One of them is firmware management, right? So if you're putting Android into a car, for example, the challenge that you have is that you need to structure your firmware management system with what the car manufacturers are used to. You don't have an operator that runs FOTA services. You don't have a device manufacturer that really does FOTA in the traditional way. So, Hakeem. So the challenge is that as part of the Android enablement story, you need to provide these kind of services, because even though they may not want to upgrade a device manufacturer may not want to upgrade to the latest Android version, they definitely want to be able to include all the latest security patches. Right? So you need to be able to put patches onto these devices, right? Even if you put it on a fridge, right, and there's a security patch, you don't want somebody to hack into your fridge and turn it off and all your food spoils, right? So if you're a fridge manufacturer, how do you update your software, right? So we provide solutions for that. So that's really one of the typical cloud services that we would provide as an embedded systems. There's also some cloud services or cloud technology that we provide around the usage of SyncML in Android to synchronize content with private clouds. Right? There's a lot of companies, there's a desire that they don't want to sync their content into the Google Cloud. They want to have their own closed cloud. So content synchronization is another one. So you have the whole electronic medical records that essentially exist in the cloud. So actually one of the things that we show here is the ability to take measurements from different medical sensor points, oximeter scales, blood pressure, whatever, aggregate it on an Android tablet, and then use a tablet to sync to a centralized secure cloud, which has medical data in it. That's important, right? Wind River has been a leading provider of platforms for many, many years, decades, right? So we do the whole platform place. In Android, in addition to the Wind River platform for Android, we also introduced a new concept, which is what we call solution accelerators. And this is really a reflection of the reality in the marketplace that Android does have a pretty complete stack, right? That comes from Android, from Google, and you need to deal with customers that are getting that stack either from their board provider or from a qualified partner like an ODM out of Taiwan, and just want to make it better. They don't want to replace it with a proprietary solution, they just want to make it better. And in order to make it better, they focus on UX customization, putting a different skin on Android, or to fill some of the native gaps of Android.
Okay.
And we have developed a set of technologies that fill some of these gaps that exist.
Can you point on gap you're talking about?
So, for example, if you boot your Galaxy Tab from a cold boot, how long does it take?
I think at least 2 or 3 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So we can boot it in 7 seconds.
Okay.
Right. So imagine if you put Android into a car, you don't want to wait for 2 to 3 minutes until you can use the radio. Right. So we have a technology called Hyperboot, where we can very rapidly boot Android. Another typical use case, right, on your tablet, Android is structured in a way where you can only see one application in foreground mode at any given time. Right? So what we have done is actually create a technology where you can have multiple concurrent windows at the same time, right? So multiple concurrent applications. So you can have a video application, a browser, and a chat application all at the same time, almost the way your Ubuntu or your Windows PC works, right? And for many use cases, that is very important, right? Because you can have, say in a car, you have a front-facing camera, right, showing your own picture, or even a rear camera, right, showing a picture from behind. You have your navigation system, and you might have some notification function going on at the same time. So that's another solution accelerator that works.